two Just Stop Oil protesters stop play. You probably saw it at the World Snooker Championship last night. It's been covered by every news outlet. A man jumped on the table at the Crucible before throwing orange dye over the cloth, and then a woman tried to do the same on the opposite table. She was stopped. Two activists jumped out of the crowd around 7:15 last night, invaded the arena, interrupted the first round matches in Sheffield between Milkins Perry and Allen and Zengi. And then a male protester wearing a white T-shirt bearing the organisation's slogan managed to climb onto the table of the Milkins Perry match and disrupt the whole thing. So the Just Stop Oil protest is clearly high profile and still alive and well. Alex, in the past on this show with Simon, we have spoken to the owner of Forest Green Rovers, Dale Vince, who made no bones about it, that he helped provide the funding which led to Just Stop Oil protesters protesting at football matches, which begs the question, did Dale Vince have anything to do with last night? So let's ask it. Dale, good morning. Did you have anything to do with last night?
Morning, Jim. Nah, I had nothing to do with it. I saw it on the news along with everybody else.
Okay, so no fingerprints of yours on that last night, but you fully back what you saw, do you? You support what the Just Stop Oil protesters did?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I back what they do. I think they're doing brilliant work. They put themselves in harm's way to make a really important point. We've got to stop drilling for new oil and gas. Our government are doing the opposite. We're in the teeth of a climate crisis that's actually killing people around the world right now. Nearly 40,000 people died in Europe last year alone from the record levels of temperature. So this is a really important issue, and a bit of disruption is the price we're paying, I think.
But Alex is going to come in a second. Dale, you and I both know it. Anyone watching the snooker last night, anybody there, any of the millions watching on television, as soon as those protesters did what they did, you know what happens. There's a huge sigh around the country as everybody said, oh no, not them again.
Yeah, I understand. Nobody wants disruption. But it's funny, isn't it? It's the smallest of disruptions compared to what the climate crisis is doing. It's making people homeless. It's causing mass migrations from areas of the planet that are becoming unlivable. It's killing people. It's harming people's lives and livelihoods. And a bit of inconvenience at sporting events, we throw our hands up in horror.
Dale, aren't there better ways, though? We had this debate on the programme last week leading up to the Grand National. We had one of those activists in the studio suggesting they were going to try and sabotage the big race. And I put it to him, aren't you in danger of losing more public sympathy than you're gaining? You call it minor disruption to people who've bought tickets to go and watch the Crucible, to the people who've planned their day around watching on television. It's not minor disruption for them. In some ways, I just don't know what they're looking to achieve. Surely there are better ways to make their point and make your point.
Yeah, I'm not sure there are, because, the science on the climate crisis is clear. The fact that we need to stop burning fossil fuels, let alone exploring for new sources of them, is also clear. We've got zero carbon targets in our country, as a lot of countries around the world have got. But what we haven't got are policies to hit them. And there are a lot of people in our country who are very frustrated about that.
What's that got to do with snooker?
And at their wits' end, actually, and not sure what they can do now, other than disrupt life as it tries to go on as usual in the face of this climate crisis.
But what's that got to do with snooker?
It's got to do with everything. We're talking about life on this planet.
But to be honest, though, Dale, I mean, people would travel from far and wide last night to go to the Crucible. They spend good money to get there. They're sitting there. They're watching what they came for. Should they have their evening totally disrupted? But you'll say, on the longer term, Jim, this really is meaningful. I accept that it is. But innocent individuals going about their business, peace-loving people, are being disrupted.
Yep, I agree. I accept that. Peace-loving people around the world are being killed by the climate crisis. That's a fact you can't argue with. And I think that's more serious than a bit of sporting disruption.
But as someone who works in sport, sorry, Jim, as somebody who works in sport, where does it sit with you that increasingly sporting events are becoming a tool to get across political messages? As someone who owns a football club, is that right? Does that sit well with you? How does it sit with your colleagues in boardrooms that you come on national radio and back these people who are causing disruption at sporting events?
It's not a political issue, Simon. This isn't sport being used for political ends. This is a life and death issue for everybody on this planet, and especially for future generations. What we do now will impact for the next 100 years. And how this sits with other people, I really don't care. That's my view. This is what I believe in. And we have to do much more than we're currently doing in our country. We're opening new coal mines and new gas and oil fields. We're expanding airports, and we have a massive road building program. All of this is in the opposite direction of what we need.
Dale, be honest with me. Is that is that protest last night at the Crucible going to change anything?
I think it will. I mean, it's got massive publicity, as you said at the top of your show. It's been covered by every news outlet. This issue won't go away. The government have to stop issuing new licenses for drilling in the North Sea.
I get that, Dale.
12 to 18 months' time.
Tell me what changes have been implemented since the protests started.
Well, I think there's been a crackdown on protests, and that's just about the only thing the government.
No, but it's made no difference to your cause, Dale.
Well, I wouldn't say that, Jim, because the cause has publicity. We have an election in 12 to 18 months' time. We have the chance, actually, to change the leadership of our country. If Labour win, Just Stop Oil will no longer need to exist.
But are you comfortable, Dale? I know you. You're a good and fair man. You're a good and fair man. Are you happy to be labelled as the chief executive, a fully paid up member of one of the most unpopular groups in the country this morning?
I don't think they are necessarily one of the most unpopular groups in the country. What you're not hearing from are the people that support what they're doing.
Have a listen to this, Dale. The president of Matchroom Sport, Barry Hearn, joined Breakfast earlier on. He gave his take on the disruption at the snooker.
We already know it doesn't do their calls any good whatsoever. If anything, it's a negative reaction. So that's a deterrent in its own way, because in the end, people go, stop what? Who gives a monkey, So custodial sentences is my way, because you know me, Laura. I'm a zero tolerance type of guy. Someone breaks the rules. Okay, you want me to put you off it? I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to bang you up for 2 years, mate. Automatically. Let me see how many others that want to do it, because I'm going to bang them up for 2. And that's the first case. The next one's 5. Because I don't know how you stop these people, because their plan to promote their cause is fundamentally failing at the first stop.
Dale, Barry Hearn is speaking for a lot of people listening to TalkSport this lunchtime. You'd agree?
I'm sure that he is. I don't doubt that. But there are a lot of people that you're not hearing from in the country that do back what Just Stop Oil are doing because of the importance of the issue. And I would say, just to say that they're not getting their message through seems silly to me. We had this conversation on your show some months ago. If you remember, Simon, at the end, I made the point that actually we were talking about the climate crisis on sport radio. And that is an achievement, actually, to get this issue in front of people. And the same was probably said about the suffragettes, however many years ago that was. It's pointless. They should choose other means of protesting, et cetera, et cetera.
If there are further similar Just Stop Oil protests in the next few weeks, Dale, and you're asked to fund them, will you do that?
Well, they never asked me to fund specific protests. I just give them money to help them do what they're doing.
Dale Vince, thanks very much indeed. The owner of Forest Green Rovers, Dale Vince, with us live after that protest at the snooker last night.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the TalkSport app and on your smart speaker. TalkSport.